Here's a simple trick how you can make your Angular loading animations really epic. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Simon from Galaxies.dev, and today I want to share a quick tip that I discovered recently. So I wanted to build a simple loading screen. I was using Ionic Angular, but you could do this with plain Angular as well. And I wanted to have a skeleton which then transitions into my content. However, it wasn't that easy. So let me show you what happened and how we can fix that. First of all, make sure you have Angular animations installed, and then you also added the browser animations module to your module. That is the first step in making this work. Within my page, I then have a loading, and after 2 seconds I set the loading to false. This could also be your HTTP call or whatever, but the thing is we're gonna have some kind of loading time, and in that loading time I wanna display something. So let's say I'm gonna put in a few Ionic items in here that look like a skeleton. So this is my view, could be anything else. Now, to make this look nicely and show the other content, I'm gonna wrap this with an ng container. So ng container, thanks for that, ng container. That will only be displayed in case we are loading. Otherwise, I want to display my content. So then we can put all of the loading state in the container, and we can put another ng template below this. ng template, content, and here follows the actual content. So I'm just gonna do pretty much the same thing that I did in the loading state, but now it's gonna have some values. And we're gonna see we have a loading state, which is the skeleton, and then we have the real view. Now, in many applications, this is already pretty fine. I'm a big fan of skeleton views. I ran a little tweet on Twitter the other day. People were like, some really like skeleton views, some hated them. I don't know how you can be so passionate about loading states and skeleton views, but I still think that this feels better than just having a loading spinner. To me, this just feels like something is happening, and when I see this inside apps, inside YouTube, inside Instagram, I just feel like it's moving forward, it's progressing. And I even know the technology behind this. But other people who are not into tech, who don't really know what a loading state or a skeleton actually is, they just perceive this as the content is almost there, and it just gives them a better feeling instead of this infinite spinner, which could take 1 second or could take 10 seconds. So I'm a big fan of skeletons, I've said it now. Now, what we notice here is that it transitions pretty immediately, and maybe I just want to morph the one thing to the other thing. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, there's where Angular animations come into play. It's not really hard to set up some animations for this case. So let's do this in our homepage. I'm gonna add an animations block. I'm gonna add all imports from Angular animations, and then we have a trigger fade in out. From the void state entering, it will animate for 1 second from opacity of 0 to 1, and if we animate out, we animate 1 second from opacity 1 to 0. In a real world scenario, I would probably use something like 200 milliseconds instead of a second, but for our case, we want to make this a bit more obvious. Now we're gonna apply this fade in out to our elements. So let's go back here, and because I don't want to do it on all of them, I'm just gonna add a little div around this. So this is div fade in out, and in fact the div fade in out, where's my loading? Okay, this is the loading state. Here's the other state. Gonna put it in here as well. So now we see it animates in, it animates out, and oh, what was that? That was the most horrible animation I've ever seen. Let's see it again. That looks so smooth, and it disappears. But the problem is, while we animate the one thing, the other thing comes already into view. And because there are now 2 elements in the DOM, they are just below each other. Now, the solution to this is pretty easy. We're gonna put a little class on these elements. So I'm gonna give this one the class loading state, and I'm gonna give this one the class, I should probably make this consistent, right? I should probably call this, I will just call it content for now. We have to live with that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add classes for loading state and for content, and I'm gonna give this an absolute position. Top 0 and left 0. Sometimes this causes problems with the width of elements, so maybe you also have to add width 100% or something. Now let's see what this changes. We still see loading. Ooh, nice. As we can see, actually we right now encounter this problem. So let's give this a width of 100. Yeah, then it works. And we have this epic smooth transition from skeleton view into real view. This is like the most natural thing you can have. Now, one additional problem comes up if you have a loading state, but probably also something below this. So if I put something out of it that maybe already renders when the page is ready, it would now look like this. Ooh, that's not really what I wanted to see. So in that case, we would have to surround the whole block here with a wrapper. Let's give it the wrapper. There we go. And I'm gonna put this around everything that we have in terms of the whole loading stuff. So I can now close this and we would see we have the wrapper and then we have the ion card. Now, initially ChatGPT told me that the wrapper just needs to have a position relative, not a height of 100%, and everything would be fine, because then the elements would be positioned in the wrapper. However, this doesn't really work unless you give the wrapper a specific height. I tried this using Flexbox and Flex Inside, so the items fill up this wrapper. It never really worked. But what usually works is if you now give this a minimum height, so a minimum height to the wrapper element, then we hit save, then we see our card shows up here. And during the transition, it completely sticks in here. We can also do this with a pseudo element or anything, but anything else like putting in display flags, and it's just not changing anything, and it didn't give me the actual height that I wanted to have. So this didn't work, but this finally worked. You could play around with the values now and make sure that your card is in the place where it should be. But overall, this makes your Angular transitions so much smoother. I would now go into this and probably use something like 200 milliseconds. If you change it to this, you should have a nice loading state, which then pretty quickly transitions into your final element. So let me know if this helped you. If you enjoyed these quick tips, leave a comment, please hit the like button and stay subscribed, because then I will create more of these. I just encountered this, I couldn't find a problem online, so just like the good old days where I shared stuff that I learned, I'm doing this right now. Hope you enjoyed it. Please stay subscribed. Check out galaxies.dev if you want to support me, and I will catch you inside the next video. So until then, happy coding, Simon.